My son texted, "You're not invited, my wife prefers family only." That's when I cut off every single money tap. The soft chime of a text message broke the serene silence of Elara Vance's elegant living room, a silence that had, for too long, mirrored the quiet solitude of her heart. At 78, Elara possessed a quiet dignity, her silver hair impeccably styled, her posture still regal despite the years that had etched delicate lines around her eyes. She sat by the grand bay window, the afternoon light casting a gentle glow on her face, illuminating the subtle fatigue that often settled there. A delicate teacup, royal Doulton porcelain, poised in her hand, reflected the warm glow of the dying sun. Her gaze, however, was not on the blooming hydrangeas outside, or the meticulously manicured rose garden she had so lovingly cultivated over decades. Instead, it was fixed on the screen of her smartphone, a sleek, modern device, a gift from her son, Orrin, last Christmas. It had been a pragmatic gesture, she'd noted at the time, devoid of genuine warmth, much like most of his interactions with her lately. A tool, not a token of affection. The message was from Orrin. Her heart, a weary muscle accustomed to small, persistent disappointments, gave a faint tremor. It wasn't the usual perfunctory update about her grandchildren's latest achievements, typically followed by a subtle, or not so subtle, request for another hefty financial transfer. This one was different. Cold. Clinical. And utterly shattering in its bluntness. "Mom, just letting you know you're not invited to the holiday gathering this year. Seraphina prefers family only." The words seemed to hang in the air, each syllable a shard of ice, splintering the tranquility of the room. Not invited, family only, the phrase echoed in the quiet space, a cruel mockery of the decades Elara had poured her very essence, her vast fortune, and her dwindling emotional reserves into what she had always believed was her family. Her hand, which moments before had held the teacup with such steady grace, now trembled almost imperceptibly. The cup rattled softly against the saucer, a tiny, fragile sound in the immense silence of her shock. A wave of nausea, cold and swift, washed over her, chilling her to the bone. Elara read the message again, her eyes scanning the curt sentences, searching for a hidden meaning, a jest, anything to soften the blow. Was this a test? A misunderstanding? There was none. It was stark, unequivocal, and delivered with the casual brutality of a stranger. Seraphina, her daughter-in-law, a woman who meticulously curated her social image and whose every material desire Elara had silently funded for years, preferred family only. And Elara, the matriarch, the tireless provider, the silent enabler of their every luxury, was suddenly relegated to the status of an outsider. A mere financial resource, no longer even worthy of a seat at her own son's holiday table. The bitter irony of the family only phrase twisted in her gut. She was not family, it seemed, only a conduit for wealth. A profound stillness settled over Elara. It was not the stillness of peace, but of a chilling resolve forming deep within her, a crystallization of years of simmering resentment. The tremor in her hand subsided, replaced by an unnerving steadiness. Her eyes, usually soft and reflective, now hardened, glinting with a steely resolve that few had ever witnessed. This was not anger, not yet. This was the quiet, terrifying calm that precedes a cataclysm, the absolute clarity of a decision long overdue. She did not respond to the message. She simply placed her phone on the polished mahogany table beside her, the screen dark, reflecting her own unreadable expression. The teacup remained, untouched, the tea within slowly cooling, much like the remnants of her unconditional love for her son and his grasping family. The game, she realized with a chilling clarity, had changed. And Elara Vance, the gentle matriarch, was about to teach her ungrateful family a lesson in true value, a lesson they would never forget. A lesson, she vowed, that would redefine their very understanding of consequence. To truly understand the profound shift in Elara Vance, one had to delve into the intricate tapestry of her past, a life marked by immense privilege and an even greater, often unrequited, generosity. Elara had married Alexander Vance in her youth, a shrewd and visionary real estate magnate whose ambition matched her own quiet determination. Their marriage had been one of deep affection and shared ambition, built on mutual respect and genuine partnership. Alexander had often sought her counsel, valued her insights, and cherished her presence. Together, they had built a vast empire from the ground up, a testament to their combined intellect and tireless effort. When Alexander passed away 15 years prior, he left Elara not just a widow's grief, a pain that still resonated in the quiet corners of her heart, but an inheritance of staggering proportions. His legacy was a diversified portfolio encompassing luxury properties across continents, sprawling commercial complexes, and a robust investment fund. He had ensured she would never want for anything, a legacy of comfort and security that was meant to be shared, not exploited. Yet, for Elara, true wealth was never measured in dollars but in familial warmth and connection. Her only son, Orrin, had been the apple of her eye, a bright, if somewhat indolent, child. From a young age, Orrin displayed a charming disinterest in the rigors of hard work, preferring to glide through life on charisma and expectation. Elara, perhaps out of a profound desire to shield him from life's harsher realities, or perhaps a subconscious need to fill the void left by Alexander's demanding career and early passing, began to overcompensate. She recalled countless instances, covering his failing college grades with donations to the university, bailing him out of ill-conceived business ventures disguised as investments that were never meant to be repaid. When Orrin tried his hand at a tech startup that quickly fizzled, Elara quietly wrote off the $1 million loan. Later, when his boutique art gallery struggled, she purchased half its inventory herself, ensuring his creditors were paid. Each time, he offered a perfunctory, "Thanks, Mom," before moving on to the next fleeting interest, never truly understanding the sacrifice, only the ease of the solution. When Orrin married Seraphina, a woman whose striking beauty was matched only by her boundless ambition for social climbing, Elara's financial involvement intensified exponentially. Seraphina, with her keen eye for luxury and an insatiable desire to keep up with, and often surpass, her affluent acquaintances, quickly identified Elara as the primary enabler of her desired lifestyle. Elara remembered the first time Seraphina visited her home, her eyes lingering not on the family photos or the warmth of the fireplace, but on the Ming vase, the antique Persian rugs, and the genuine Renoir hanging in the hallway. It was then, Elara realized, that she was no longer seen as a mother-in-law, but a resource. The couple moved into a sprawling 7-bedroom mansion in the exclusive Palisades neighborhood, a property Elara had not only purchased outright for $8 million but also meticulously furnished from top to bottom, spending an additional $2 million on interior design and landscaping. Seraphina had insisted on specific European imports, rare fabrics, and bespoke furniture, all of which Elara quietly approved, hoping to buy her way into their affection. The property taxes alone, a staggering $150,000 annually, were discreetly handled by Elara's financial team, always paid on time, never a worry for Orrin or Seraphina. She even recalled the time Seraphina complained about the drab, swimming pool area, prompting Elara to commission a full-scale renovation, adding a lavish outdoor kitchen and waterfall feature at a cost of another $300,000. Their fleet of luxury vehicles was another testament to Elara's unending generosity. Orrin drove a gleaming Mercedes-Benz S-Class, a gift from his mother for his 40th birthday, costing over $110,000. Seraphina, not to be outdone, received a custom-ordered Range Rover autobiography, priced at an eye-watering $150,000, for her 45th, specifically because her best friend had just purchased a similar model. Even their children, Beatrice and Julian, were given luxury cars upon turning 16, a sleek Audi A4 for Beatrice and a sporty BMW 3 Series for Julian, each costing around $50,000. All insurance, maintenance, and fuel costs for these vehicles were charged to Elara's various accounts. She once overheard Orrin complaining to a friend that his Mercedes oil change was such a hassle, and so expensive, entirely oblivious that Elara's office had already handled the bill for years. The grandchildren, Beatrice, now 20, and Julian, 18, were enrolled in the most elite private schools in the state, with annual tuition exceeding $50,000 per child, per year. Elara paid for their extracurricular activities, their expensive tutors, their international school trips to destinations like Florence and Kyoto, and even their designer wardrobes. She funded Beatrice's equestrian hobby, which involved owning a show horse and competing in national events, a pursuit that alone cost upwards of $70,000 annually, including stable fees and veterinary care. Julian's passion for competitive gaming was equally expensive, with state-of-the-art equipment, custom-built PCs costing thousands, and participation fees for tournaments around the globe, all covered by Elara. She once asked Julian about his gaming, hoping for a moment of shared interest, but he merely shrugged and said, "It's just what everyone does, Grandma." Every summer, the family embarked on lavish vacations to the Caribbean, European capitals, or exclusive ski resorts in Aspen, all meticulously planned and paid for by Elara. These trips, often costing hundreds of thousands of dollars, were usually extended to include Seraphina's own family members, her parents, siblings, even distant cousins, leaving Elara feeling like an afterthought, rarely consulted on destinations or activities, often relegated to a separate, less desirable suite while her family reveled in their opulent surroundings. She remembered a trip to a private island in the Maldives where she was assigned a villa with a partial ocean view, while Orrin and Seraphina enjoyed the prime beachfront estate, explaining that, "Mother, you prefer quiet, don't you?" Yet, despite this unending stream of financial aid, a profound emotional chasm grew. Elara yearned for simple affection, for a shared meal where the conversation wasn't dominated by discussions of her assets, for a genuine inquiry into her well-being. Instead, she was treated as an invisible ATM, Orrin would call, but only to subtly hint at a pending bill or a new, investment opportunity, that invariably required a significant loan from her. Seraphina would visit, but her eyes would always linger on Elara's antique jewelry, her rare art collection, or the deeds to her various properties, assessing their potential future value. One memorable Thanksgiving, 3 years prior, Elara had prepared a traditional feast, pouring her heart into every dish, remembering Alexander's favorite recipes. Orrin and Seraphina arrived late, offering perfunctory apologies, their eyes already scanning the room for their next social engagement. They ate quickly, making excuses about a charity gala they simply couldn't miss, leaving Elara alone with a table laden with uneaten food and a heart heavy with unspoken sadness. "Mother, you really outdid yourself," Orrin had said, patting her shoulder distractedly as he headed for the door, "but we must run." Seraphina simply exhausted. He didn't see the silent plea in her eyes, the yearning for just an hour of their genuine presence, a real conversation, a moment of connection. Another instance, a year later, during Beatrice's high school graduation, Elara arrived, expecting to sit with her family. Instead, Seraphina had accidentally assigned her a seat 3 rows back, claiming the front row was reserved for close family. Elara had watched, heartbroken, as Seraphina and Orrin beamed from the front, taking photos with Beatrice, while she, the quiet benefactor, faded into the background, a mere spectator in the life she funded. Even Beatrice, usually more considerate, had only offered a quick wave from the stage, already caught up in her friends. The casual dismissal, the veiled contempt, the open discussions about her portfolio and estate planning within earshot, had chipped away at Elara's spirit. She had seen Orrin and Seraphina exchange knowing glances when she offered advice or expressed a simple opinion, as if her thoughts, like her age, were outdated and irrelevant. They had gradually, subtly, excluded her from their social events, claiming, "It's mostly younger people, Mom, you wouldn't enjoy it," or "the noise would be too much for you." They spoke of their struggles while vacationing in St. Bart's, never acknowledging the source of their endless luxury. Elara, a woman of immense wealth and quiet strength, had allowed herself to be diminished, convinced that her financial support was the only currency she had left to maintain a connection, however tenuous, with her family. The text message, "Seraphina prefers family only," was not just an exclusion, it was the final, undeniable proof that in their eyes, she was not family at all. She was merely a resource, and a disposable one at that, once her utility for their immediate social standing had been exhausted. The well of her patience, after decades of silent sacrifice and blatant disrespect, had finally run dry. Elara Vance did not hesitate. There was no internal debate, no lingering second thoughts, no flicker of doubt. The cold clarity that had settled upon her was absolute. The silence of her elegant living room, once filled with the ghosts of her generosity, now hummed with a fierce new determination. She walked with a steady, unhurried gait to her home office, a room rarely used by her since Alexander's passing, but still meticulously maintained. It held his grand mahogany desk, his leather-bound books, and a secure, dedicated phone line, a relic of a more private era. She picked up the receiver and dialed. Her first call was to Mr. Arthur Jenkins, her long-standing financial advisor at Vance Legacy Trust. Arthur had managed her late husband's vast estate for over 3 decades and understood its intricate layers better than anyone. His voice, when he answered, was as crisp and professional as ever, a soothing familiarity. "Arthur, it's Elara," she stated, her voice calm, utterly devoid of the usual pleasantries or the gentle tremor he might have expected from her after a difficult family interaction. "I need you to initiate a complete and immediate cessation of all financial disbursements to Orrin, Seraphina, Beatrice, and Julian Vance. Effective immediately." Arthur Jenkins, a man who had witnessed the quiet flow of millions from Elara's accounts to her son's family for years, paused, a rare moment of surprise in his otherwise unshakable demeanor. He had suspected this day might come, but the suddenness of it was jarring. "Elara, are you certain?" "That's quite comprehensive. This includes the monthly allowances, the mortgage payments on the Palisades property, the children's trust funds, all credit lines linked to your accounts, and any direct payments for their various expenses?" His voice was careful, probing. "Every single one, Arthur," Elara affirmed, her tone unwavering, each word a hammer blow of finality. "The mortgage for the Palisades residence, which is held under their name but has been paid from my principal for years, its quarterly property taxes, and the large insurance premiums. The $50,000 monthly allowance I transfer to Orrin's account. The individual $10,000 monthly allowances for Beatrice and Julian. The credit lines, the Platinum Amex and the Black Centurion card, linked to my corporate accounts, used for their designer shopping, high-end dining, and international travel. All private school and university tuition fees, past, present, and future, including their enrollment deposits and activity fees. Any and all vehicle-related expenses, insurance, maintenance, fuel, even their parking tickets. Any medical bills, dental bills, or elective procedures not covered by their nominal insurance, which I also pay for. All vacation expenses, past and future bookings, including private jet charters and exclusive resort reservations. Every single cent that has flowed from my estate to them must stop, without exception. Furthermore, I want all access to the children's educational and recreational trust funds frozen. No withdrawals, no transfers. Lock it down completely." She paused, a breath, before adding, "And Arthur, I want an audit of all my accounts, to ensure no unauthorized transactions or hidden agreements were ever made by them. I trust you implicitly, but diligence is key." Arthur, regaining his composure and recognizing the unshakable resolve in her voice, began to tap rapidly on his keyboard. "Understood, Elara. This will require some immediate action from our legal team to formally revoke powers of attorney and access rights. It might cause a considerable disturbance on their end. They have grown accustomed to a certain standard." His words were an understatement. "Are you prepared for the fallout?" "I am, Arthur." "More prepared than you know," Elara replied, a faint, almost imperceptible tremor of satisfaction in her voice. "I want all their recurring bills that I currently cover, utilities for their home, their various club memberships, their personal staff salaries, their exorbitant landscaping services, their exclusive gym memberships, to be automatically rejected from my accounts. Let them understand the true cost of their lifestyle, not just the large sums, but the small, insidious drains they never even acknowledged. And please, ensure that any attempts by them to contact you, or any member of your firm, for financial assistance or information about my accounts are met with a polite but firm refusal to disclose anything. My financial affairs are, from this moment forward, strictly confidential. Her next call was to Evelyn Thorne, her estate lawyer. Evelyn was a formidable woman in her 60s, sharp as a tack and fiercely loyal, a woman who had seen the subtle manipulations of families battling over inheritances more times than she could count. Elara briefly, concisely, explained the situation, the text message, and her decision. Evelyn, I need you to draft immediate legal notices. First, a revocation of any existing power of attorney or financial authorization Orrin or Seraphina may have. Second, a formal notice to all relevant institutions, banks, credit card companies, schools, mortgage lenders, luxury vendors, informing them that Elara Vance will no longer be responsible for any financial obligations pertaining to Orrin, Seraphina, Beatrice, or Julian Vance. I want this done legally and impeccably. I anticipate they will try to challenge this, perhaps even claim I am no longer of sound mind. They most certainly will, Elara, Evelyn confirmed, her voice grim, a hint of steel in her own tone. This is a complete disinheritance, effectively. A full severance. Are you prepared for the legal battle that will ensue? They will undoubtedly claim undue influence, perhaps even attempt to have you declared incompetent, as you said. They might try to freeze your assets, claiming you are a danger to yourself. Let them try, Elara said, her voice like tempered steel, utterly devoid of fear. I have my faculties, and my will is ironclad. I want every legal avenue explored to protect my assets from their future claims, and to ensure this decision is irreversible. I want them to understand, unequivocally, that the well is dry. Completely dry. Not a drop left for their indulgence. Within hours, the first ripples of Elara's decisive action began to spread, like a subtle tremor beneath the surface of their gilded lives. Orrin, while attempting to purchase a new set of custom-fitted golf clubs, a limited edition set he'd been eyeing for weeks, costing upwards of $5,000, at an exclusive country club pro shop, found his platinum Amex declined. He swiped it again, impatiently, assuming a technical glitch or an issue with the club's antiquated system. Perhaps the machine is faulty, he grumbled to the young assistant, who looked increasingly uncomfortable. Orrin tried his black Centurion card, the card he used for all his major purchases, a card that had never once failed him, a symbol of his supposed boundless wealth. Declined, the assistant announced, his voice barely above a whisper, handing the card back with an apologetic shrug. Orrin's face flushed a deep crimson. He stormed out, convinced it was a temporary system error, a bank hiccup that would resolve itself by morning. He decided to just charge it to Mother's account later. Seraphina, meanwhile, was at a high-end boutique, selecting a new evening gown for an upcoming charity gala. She had chosen a designer piece, a shimmering silk creation costing upwards of $15,000, paired with matching bespoke shoes. When her Centurion card was declined, she laughed, a brittle, dismissive sound. Oh, how silly. It must be some limit. Just run it again, darling. Or perhaps my assistant forgot to notify the bank of this purchase. But it was declined again, and then a third time, with a polite but firm message from the payment terminal. The sales assistant, a practiced expert in discerning genuine wealth from mere pretense, gave Seraphina a look of polite pity, recognizing the unmistakable signs of a financial issue. Seraphina, mortified, had to leave the gown behind, muttering about her accountant having a momentary lapse and promising to return later with a different card. Her carefully constructed image of effortless affluence felt, for the first time, precariously thin. That evening, the first real crack appeared, too significant to ignore. A notification popped up on Orrin's banking app, an automatic payment for their monthly mortgage, a sum of $45,000, had been rejected due to insufficient funds. Orrin stared at it, bewildered, convinced it was a bank error. What in God's name, he muttered, scrolling through his recent transactions. Everything looked normal on his end. He called the mortgage company, only to be informed by a polite but firm representative that the payment had indeed been rejected and that the funding source, Elara Vance's trust, had formally ceased all future payments. There has been a revocation of authority, Mr. Vance. You are now solely responsible for the mortgage payments. Orrin's heart hammered against his ribs. Seraphina, meanwhile, was on the phone with the headmaster of Julian's private school. The tuition payment, due that morning, had not gone through. The school politely but firmly stated that without the payment, Julian would not be permitted to attend classes the following week, nor would his participation in the international robotics competition be allowed. Seraphina's initial annoyance morphed into a creeping dread. But Mrs. Vance always handles that," she stammered, feeling a chill crawl up her spine. The headmaster's voice, usually deferential, was now curt and businesslike. "Our records indicate a formal cessation of payments from that account, Mrs. Vance. We require immediate payment from an alternate source." Panic began to set in. The small, isolated incidents, the declined cards, the missed mortgage, the school tuition, a notification that their electricity bill was overdue, began to coalesce into a terrifying pattern. Orrin tried to call Elara. Her phone rang, and rang, and rang, until it went to voicemail. He tried again. And again. No response. A cold dread, unlike any he had ever known, began to grip him. The limitless well of his mother's wealth, the very foundation of his life, seemed to be inexplicably, terrifyingly, drying up. He tried to rationalize it, to blame it on some elaborate scheme by Elara's financial team, but the truth, cold and hard, was beginning to seep into his consciousness. The following morning, the reality of their unraveling world hit Orrin and Seraphina with the force of a physical blow. Their personal assistant, a young woman paid handsomely by Elara to manage their overflowing social calendar and endless appointments, informed them that her salary, along with the salaries of their house staff, the cook, the maids, the chauffeur, had not been paid. The lavish weekly grocery delivery from the gourmet organic market, always charged directly to Elara's account, was halted. The gardener, who maintained their sprawling estate with meticulous care, had pulled his crew, citing non-payment. The Mercedes and the Range Rover, usually filled to the brim with premium fuel and detailed weekly, were running on fumes, their fuel cards, linked to Elara's corporate accounts, now useless. "This is insane!" Orrin roared, pacing their pristine, yet suddenly vulnerable, living room. His voice was hoarse with frustration and burgeoning fear. "She's playing games. She always does this, a little scare tactic to remind us of her generosity. But she's gone too far this time. She's trying to punish us." Seraphina, however, looked genuinely terrified, her perfectly made-up face pale beneath the layers of foundation. "No, Orrin, this isn't a game." The school was very firm. "And my boutique called, saying they've been notified all my pending orders, including the gown, are cancelled because the payment method is invalid. Even my gym membership was suspended this morning. This is unprecedented. She's never, ever done anything like this. This feels permanent." Her carefully constructed facade of effortless luxury was crumbling, revealing the raw panic beneath. The thought of losing her social standing, her carefully cultivated image, was more terrifying than anything. They tried calling Elara again, desperately, incessantly, their fingers raw from dialing. Still, no answer. Frantic, Orrin finally left a voicemail, his voice a strained mix of anger and burgeoning fear, tinged with a desperate plea. "Mother, what is the meaning of this? You've cut off everything. The mortgage, the kids' tuition, our cards, the staff. This is unacceptable. You're destroying us. Call us back immediately. We need to talk." He even tried calling Arthur Jenkins and Evelyn Thorne, only to be met with polite, firm refusals to discuss Elara's private affairs. The walls were closing in. When a full day passed without a word, the couple knew they had to act. They were losing control, and the thought of their meticulously crafted image shattering, of their friends discovering their true financial precariousness, filled them with profound terror. "We have to go to her," Seraphina declared, her eyes wide with a desperate resolve. "She won't answer her phone. We'll show up, she has to talk to us. She can't ignore us face to face." They arrived at Elara's mansion in the late afternoon, their luxury cars, for the first time, not sparkling clean, a faint layer of dust on their polished surfaces. Their faces were etched with a desperate anxiety, their usual composure replaced by raw fear. Orrin pounded on the ornate front door, the sound echoing ominously through the quiet, tree-lined street. After a tense minute, the door opened a crack, revealing Elara's long-serving housekeeper, Mrs. Gable, her expression unreadable, her gaze steady. "Mrs. Vance is not receiving visitors," Mrs. Gable stated, her voice polite but firm, an unwavering barrier. "Nonsense, Mrs. Gable. This is her son. And her daughter-in-law." Orrin practically shouted, his voice cracking with indignation, pushing past the housekeeper with an arrogant shove. Seraphina trailed behind him, her eyes darting around the familiar, opulent foyer, taking in every detail as if for the last time. The air felt colder, heavier than usual. They found Elara in the living room, exactly where she had been 2 days prior, seated by the grand bay window, a leather-bound book resting open in her lap. She looked utterly serene, an almost ethereal calm radiating from her, a stark contrast to their frantic energy. She did not look up immediately, allowing their frantic footsteps and gasping breaths to fill the room, a sharp discord against her composed stillness. It was as if she were waiting for them, poised and ready. "Mother!" Orrin burst out, his voice a chaotic mixture of indignation and thinly veiled panic, his hands clenched into fists. "What is the meaning of this? Our cards are declined, the mortgage payment bounced, the children's school is threatening to expel them. Our staff quit. Are you out of your mind? You're ruining everything." Elara slowly raised her head, her gaze meeting his. Her eyes, usually so soft and forgiving, were now like chips of ice, reflecting no warmth, no recognition of the distressed son before her. "Meaning?" she repeated, her voice a low, steady murmur that somehow commanded the entire room, silencing Orrin's outburst. "The meaning, Orrin, is quite clear. The well is dry. The well is dry." Seraphina scoffed, finding her voice, a desperate, high-pitched edge to it. She clutched her expensive handbag, her knuckles white. "What are you talking about? You have limitless funds. Are you ill? Is this some sort of senior moment? Because if it is, we can get you help, the best doctors, but you cannot do this to us. Think of your grandchildren. Do to you." Elara's gaze shifted to Seraphina, her voice still quiet, but imbued with an almost terrifying power, a contained force. "You speak of what I am doing to you. For decades, I have done nothing but give. Let me enumerate, for your benefit, the extent of my supposed illness. I bought your grand house, a $10 million estate you call your home, paying its annual $150,000 property taxes, its $5,000 monthly utility bills, and the salaries of your entire domestic staff, the cooks, the maids, the gardeners, the drivers. I financed your luxury vehicles, a Mercedes S-Class, a Range Rover Autobiography, an Audis and BMWs for the children, totaling over $360,000, not to mention their annual insurance and maintenance, which runs into tens of thousands more. I have paid for every single one of Beatrice and Julian's elite private school tuitions, over $50,000 per child, per year, since kindergarten. I funded Beatrice's equestrian obsession, complete with a show horse and professional coaching, costing upwards of $70,000 annually. Julian's competitive gaming tournaments and state-of-the-art equipment, another substantial sum. Your lavish vacations to the Maldives and the Swiss Alps, your designer wardrobes, your expensive jewelry, your exclusive club memberships, the golf club, the yacht club, the exclusive city club, all paid for by me. I have paid your personal allowances, over $50,000 a month for you, Orrin, and $10,000 a month for each of the children, for years. I have covered every medical emergency, every dental visit, every elective procedure, every whim, every desire you have ever expressed, without question, without complaint. She paused, her eyes sweeping over them, seeing not her family, but two entitled strangers, their faces now mirroring a dawning horror. And what, in return, have I received? Neglect. Disrespect. Contempt. You openly discussed my assets and estate planning as if I were already in my grave, a mere collection of properties and funds. You excluded me from family gatherings, claiming I was old-fashioned or wouldn't enjoy it. You treated me not as a mother, or a grandmother, but as a silent, endlessly flowing ATM. You have taken, and taken, and taken, never once offering genuine affection, never once showing true gratitude, never once asking how I was, beyond a cursory glance. You have drained me, not just financially, but emotionally, spiritually. You have treated me as a disposable resource, a means to an end. Orrin, stunned by the cold, precise enumeration of her boundless generosity, stammered, his voice losing its indignant edge, replaced by a desperate tremor. Mother, this is ridiculous. We appreciate everything. We always have. But you can't just cut us off. We have a lifestyle. The children have their schools, their activities. You're ruining their lives. You're destroying our family. Ruining their lives. Elara's voice rose slightly, a chilling edge to it, devoid of any sympathy. No, Orrin. You have ruined your own lives by fostering a dependency so absolute that you cannot comprehend existence without my endless supply of money. You are 52 years old, Orrin. Seraphina, you are 50. You are both perfectly capable of earning your own living, of building your own lives, of supporting your own children. You simply chose not to, because it was easier to live off my hard-earned legacy, a legacy built on decades of my own and Alexander's hard work. As for the children, they are adults now. Beatrice is 20, Julian 18. They will learn the value of hard work, a lesson you deliberately deprived them of, shielding them from every challenge. Seraphina, seeing her entire lavish future collapsing, tried a different tactic, one she had used successfully many times before. Her voice softened, laced with feigned hurt, her eyes welling with theatrical tears. Mother Elara, how can you say such things? We love you. We always have. This is cruel. Think of the children. They adore you. You're punishing them for our mistakes. Don't you want to see them succeed? Tears, theatrically large and glistening, began to roll down her cheeks. Elara's gaze was unyielding, unswayed by the performance. Save your dramatics, Seraphina. Your love has always been conditional on the flow of money. And as for the children, their adoration, as you call it, never seemed to extend to inviting their grandmother to their holiday gatherings. The text message, Orrin, was quite clear: Seraphina prefers family only. It seems I am not considered family, not worthy of your presence, only your purse strings. Orrin's face turned ashen. He finally understood the full weight of her words, the true catalyst. Mother, no. That was just a misunderstanding. Seraphina didn't mean it like that. We thought you might prefer to stay home and relax. We were trying to be considerate, to spare you the noise. He was scrambling now, desperation replacing indignation, his carefully constructed persona crumbling before her unwavering gaze. Please, Mother, don't do this. We need you. We can't survive without your help. We'll change. We'll be better. We'll invite you to everything. We'll spend more time with you. We'll visit weekly. Just please, don't cut us off. We'll do anything. No, Elara said, the single word cutting through his desperate pleas like a surgeon's scalpel, clean and precise. Her eyes, filled with years of unaddressed pain and now, a liberating resolve, bore into his. My decision is final. I have contacted my financial advisor and my estate lawyer. All financial ties have been severed. Irrevocably. You will learn, as I have, that self-worth cannot be purchased, and true familial bonds are not forged with golden handcuffs. You have built a life of artifice, of borrowed luxury, and now it must face the harsh light of reality. I wish you well in your endeavors to stand on your own 2 feet. This conversation is over. She rose from her chair, a figure of formidable dignity, her posture regal, her gaze steady. Orrin and Seraphina stood frozen, their faces a tableau of disbelief and utter despair, the full weight of their self-inflicted predicament finally crashing down upon them. Elara did not raise her voice, did not shout, did not even display a flicker of anger. Her calm, unwavering resolve was far more devastating than any outburst could have been. She simply turned and walked away, leaving them alone in her living room, the vast silence amplifying the chilling finality of her words. The grand house, once their comfortable haven, now seemed to mock them with its silence, its opulent emptiness. Months later, the once bustling world of Orrin and Seraphina Vance was a stark shadow of its former opulence. The Palisades mansion, a symbol of their inherited luxury and their perceived social standing, had been foreclosed upon. They had fought it desperately, futilely, hiring lawyers, pleading with the bank, but without Elara's inexhaustible funds, they simply couldn't service the colossal debt. The grand gates, once gleaming, were now often closed, and the property stood eerily silent, awaiting auction, its once vibrant gardens overgrown. They had been forced to downsize dramatically, moving into a modest, rented 3-bedroom house in a less fashionable suburb, a humiliating blow to Seraphina's social aspirations and a constant reminder of their fall from grace. Their luxury vehicles had been repossessed, the shiny Mercedes and Range Rover replaced by a single, used sedan, purchased with what little cash they had managed to scrape together. Orrin, after months of stubborn refusal and failed attempts to find an executive position, had been forced to take a low-paying administrative job, a position he found demeaning and exhausting, a cruel contrast to his previous life of leisurely golf games and endless allowances. He spent his evenings grumbling about his demanding boss and the indignity of public transport. Seraphina, her social circle decimated, attempted to revive her boutique consulting, but quickly discovered that without Elara's credit lines, her high-end network evaporated. Her calls to former friends and acquaintances were met with polite brush-offs or unreturned messages. She eventually began working part-time at a local retail store, a job she detested, her once perfectly manicured hands now rough from honest labor, her days filled with the mundane realities of customer service. Beatrice and Julian, abruptly cut off from their elite private education, had been forced to enroll in public community college. The initial shock and anger had slowly given way to a grudging acceptance of their new reality. Beatrice, surprisingly, found a part-time job at a coffee shop to pay for her books and bus fare, learning the value of $1 for the first time. She even found a quiet satisfaction in earning her own way, though she would never admit it to her parents. Julian, channeling his competitive drive, started coaching a local youth gaming league, earning a small income and gaining a new appreciation for the hard work involved in his passion, rather than simply having it funded. They grumbled, they complained, they often expressed resentment towards their grandmother, but they were, for the first time, learning the harsh, valuable lessons of self-reliance, of earning their own way. The desperate calls to Elara had long since ceased, replaced by a sullen silence born of shame and resentment. While their world descended into financial chaos and forced humility, Elara Vance took her first deliberate steps into a new, liberated life. The days following the confrontation were filled with a quiet, profound sense of release. The heavy burden she had carried for decades, the invisible chains of resentment and unacknowledged sacrifice, had finally been cast off. She felt lighter, clearer, as if a perpetual fog had lifted from her mind, revealing a vibrant landscape she had long forgotten. She slept more soundly than she had in years, free from the crushing weight of their expectations. Her first act of self-care was simple, yet deeply significant. She called an old friend, Margaret, a retired art historian with whom she had lost touch over the years, partly due to Orrin and Seraphina's subtle discouragement of her independent social life. "Margaret, would you be free for lunch next week?" Elara asked, a genuine smile gracing her lips, a smile that reached her eyes for the first time in a long time. Margaret, delighted, immediately agreed. Their reunion was filled with laughter, shared memories, and a rediscovery of a friendship based on true connection. Next, Elara contacted her personal travel agent, a service she had previously only used for her family's elaborate vacations. "I'd like to book a trip for myself," she announced, her voice filled with a sense of adventure. "A long one. Perhaps a month in Tuscany, followed by a cruise through the Norwegian fjords, and then a few weeks exploring the art museums of Paris. First class all the way, and no expense spared." For the first time, she was planning a journey for herself, for her own pleasure, without having to consider anyone else's preferences or demands. The very thought filled her with an intoxicating sense of freedom, a luxury far greater than any material possession. She also began revisiting her own neglected hobbies. She unpacked her old easel and paints, dusty from years of neglect, and set them up in her sunroom, the light streaming in. She rediscovered the joy of creating, of mixing colors, of allowing her mind to wander freely, expressing emotions she had suppressed for so long. She spent hours in her vast library, delving into books she had always wanted to read but never found the time for, immersing herself in worlds far removed from her past anxieties. The thought of Orrin and Seraphina's mounting distress did not bring her joy, but a quiet satisfaction, a sense of righting a long-standing wrong. It was not vengeance she sought, but justice. They had chosen their path, one paved with entitlement and emotional neglect, and now they had to walk it on their own, unburdened by her endless resources. Elara had given them every opportunity, every comfort, and they had squandered it, not just financially, but by severing the very bond that had sustained their lives. Her new life, free from the crushing weight of their expectations, was beginning, unburdened and truly her own. She was thriving. Months turned into a year. Elara Vance was flourishing. Her days were now filled with pursuits that truly brought her joy. The trip to Tuscany had been a revelation, her cruise through the fjords breathtaking, the crisp air invigorating. She had marveled at the masterpieces in the Louvre and the Uffizi, unhurried, absorbing every brushstroke, every historical detail. She had reconnected with old friends, forging bonds based on shared interests and genuine affection, not on financial leverage. Lunches with Margaret were a weekly ritual, filled with lively discussions about art, history, and the simple joys of life. She even reconnected with former colleagues of Alexander's, finding intellectual stimulation she had long missed. She began taking pottery classes, her hands, once trembling with silent hurt, now expertly shaping clay, finding a meditative peace in the tactile process. She volunteered at a local animal shelter, finding immense comfort and purpose in caring for abandoned creatures, their unconditional affection a balm to her soul. Her home, once a quiet mausoleum of her generosity, now vibrated with a newfound vibrancy. She hosted small, intimate dinner parties for her friends, filled with laughter, heartfelt conversation, and genuine camaraderie, something she had rarely experienced with her own son and his family. She spent her wealth on experiences, on learning, on giving back to causes she genuinely cared about, and on pampering herself with simple luxuries she had long denied, like a new set of gardening tools or a rare first edition book. Her mind was sharp, her spirit bright. The burden of obligation, the weight of their ingratitude, had lifted, revealing a woman vibrant and full of life, rediscovering her own identity beyond that of a mere benefactor. She was no longer Elara Vance, the ATM. She was Elara Vance, a woman of strength, wisdom, and a profound, hard-won peace. She had learned, perhaps belatedly, that true love and respect cannot be bought with money, and that attempts to do so only foster dependency and resentment. The most profound act of loyalty, she realized, was often to oneself, to one's own well-being and dignity. By severing the financial ties, she had not lost a family, she had simply reclaimed her life, finally free to live it on her own terms, a testament to the enduring power of self-respect and the unwavering courage to walk away from what no longer serves you. Elara's story is a powerful reminder that sometimes, the greatest act of love is also the toughest. It's about drawing a line, reclaiming your worth, and demanding the respect you deserve, even from those closest to you. Her journey from quiet suffering to profound liberation is one that resonates deeply, highlighting the universal truth that true value lies not in material possessions, but in genuine connection and mutual respect. If Elara's tale of reclaiming her life resonated with you, you're in the right place. Our channel is dedicated to sharing real-life stories of justice, resilience, and valuable life lessons, where individuals find their strength and triumph over adversity. We believe in the power of these narratives to inspire and empower. Don't miss out on more captivating stories like Elara's. Make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so you're always updated when we release a new video. And now, we turn to you, our incredible community. Have you ever faced such blatant ingratitude from someone you've helped? What would you have done if you were in Elara's shoes? Share your thoughts, experiences, and advice in the comments below. We love hearing from you and engaging in these important conversations. Your insights truly enrich our community.